Pass Around the Smile is like your go-to friend, the one that lifts you up and backs you till the end. She's there to guide and inspire, challenge and teach, and remind you that your best self isn't out of reach. Self-development, manifestation, self-love and more, it's time to trust the process more than ever before. Welcome to Pass Around the Smile, the podcast. I'm your host, Cleo Massey, and I am so glad you're here. Let the magic begin. Hello, my smileys. Just jumping on the microphone for a little note before this episode with Astro Tash begins. So first of all, you may have seen that I uploaded 3 episodes in one day last week. Insane, crazy. I've never done it ever, but it just felt right. And I labeled them as part 1, part 2, part 3. I can see in my analytics that there are quite a few of you who have listened to part 3, but not part 1. I just wanted to say, make sure you listen to part 1 and part 2 before part 3. Otherwise, it will not make sense. You may have just seen part 3 as the latest episode and thought, oh, yes, she's got an episode out. I'll listen to that. So just a little note on that. Now, as for this episode, it's so exciting. I wanted to say the first 13 minutes, the first 13 minutes 40 to be exact, is quite in depth and there's a lot around October. So if you are looking for some more simple kind of astrology facts, stories and examples, I would skip the first bit. Also, if you are listening to this past October and October isn't really relatable for you right now, just skip to 13 minutes 40. Otherwise, there are some really good pockets of wisdom in the first 13 minutes. It's just quite woo-woo, a little bit advanced. It's not crazy advanced. Like I learned a lot, but I just wanted to let you know. I just didn't want you listening to the first 13 minutes and think like, oh, this is too much for me. This is so over my head. I don't understand. It gets super simple and not super simple, but it gets super interesting and more digestible as the episode goes. She is absolutely incredible. You are going to love it. Hello, Tash. Welcome to the Pass Around the Smile podcast. Well, actually, welcome back to the Pass Around the Smile podcast.
Thank you. It's beautiful to be back and
Oh,
reconnecting with your gorgeous community.
my community love you. And I went to write your own intro as I like to do, but then I went on your website and I read the intro that you have kind of like your bio that you have written
Oh,
for yourself. And it's just so impressive that I was like, I can't change this. So I'm going to read out your
oh.
bio just so my smiley communities know. Smiley community, I should say, know that we've got the real deal here, guys. Like we have got the real deal. So Natasha Weber, also known as Astro Tash, is an award-winning astrologer with over 20 years of experience, known for making astrology relatable, empowering, and accessible. She is the resident astrologer for Channel 7's The Morning Show and writes horoscopes for Marie Claire Australia and Mamma Mia. As the first astrologer to deliver horoscopes on primetime news, Natasha made world history on 7 News,
Got it.
revolutionizing how astrology is presented in mainstream media. Her work reaches millions through her widely read columns, high-profile media appearances, wow, and best-selling book Your Celestial Compass: Astrology for Self-Discovery and Empowerment. Natasha's insights and predictions have appeared across major platforms including Body and Soul, news.com.au, Elle and the Herald Sun, and her personal story, which is huge, has been featured in Forbes. Awarded the prestigious AAAC diploma for her contribution to astrological research, Natasha is accredited by the Australian Academy of Astrology and Cosmobiology. She's also a member of the American Federation of Astrologers and the Federation of Australian Astrologers. Now, as I said, my smiley community, I wanted to read that all out just so you know, like, oh my God, Tash, like you have just achieved so much and you really are the real deal. It actually gives me shivers that I get to have a conversation with you and get to have you on my podcast. Like, how is that even real?
Well, what a beautiful introduction. My God, I'm exhausted just listening to it, actually. But thank you. Thank you so much. I guess I'm very passionate about what I do, and I've been doing it for a very, very long time.
Yeah, I can tell. Like you say, you're exhausted listening to that because you've just done so much, you've achieved so much. And what I love is how accessible and relatable your information regarding astrology is because I've mentioned to my community, I'm very into astrology. I love it and I kind of trust my intuition when it comes to astrology, but I don't know much. So having you on here to kind of guide us through is just everything. So I think we might start with October. And now, my community listening, if you're listening to this late and it's past October, don't worry. This episode's not going to be all about just what's coming up in October. There's lots more. But for now, Tash, you mentioned to me over email, there's a little bit coming astrologically in October that we kind of should be aware about. So why don't we start there?
Yes, absolutely. Let's start with October. I mean, 2025 is such a game changing year in astrology, anyway. But looking at October, I mean, obviously there are a lot of planetary shifts occurring, but I don't want to take up the whole entire episode just with this one question. So I'm just going to tease out some of the major players in October, with the first being Pluto goes direct in Aquarius. So Pluto in Aquarius has been such a transformational shift. It's responsible for everything that we're seeing in terms of the birth of AI basically taking over our entire lives,
Wow.
and I mean in a good way, as well as
Mm,
with its challenges, of course. But
mhm.
with this shift about Pluto going direct, this is again highlighting the power to the people, because Pluto's the planet of power and Aquarius represents the people. In fact, it often represents the underdog. So,
Mm.
on the positive side of things, this can help us in our own lives to speak up, to find our voice, to advocate for ourselves.
Okay.
And I think this is really a beautiful shift to ask yourself, how are you using your personal power? And we can really work on that.
Mm.
This is also about transformation, because Pluto rules that type of deep transformation, like a snake shedding its skin, or like the phoenix. This is one of my favorite analogies about Pluto, the phoenix that rises from the ashes. So, and this will relate to, because we're going to talk a bit about birth charts this episode, right? So this will relate to your Aquarius house, and each house in our birth chart represents different areas of life. So let's say it is in your seventh house, that Aquarius rules your seventh house. For example, this is the house of partnerships, of marriage, business partnerships. So in this case, Pluto going direct in Aquarius is going to then help you establish your independence in your relationships. This can also be about originality, finding your original ideas. So that is Pluto direct in Aquarius in a nutshell. And
Ooh.
Pluto will be in Aquarius, I think it's until 2044. So it will retrograde, obviously, within that time. And it means a whole bunch of things. But I think just this is a great beginning for us to work with this shift that's happening
Wow.
mid October. And then we've got Neptune going retrograde back into Pisces. So Neptune entered Aries this year. And that in itself has been, really, we've had a very Aries focused year. Um, and I will actually speak about this more when I talk about the full moon in Aries that we have in October. But in terms of Neptune, Neptune is the planet of dreams, of inspiration, of imagination. And when it goes back into Pisces, mind you, this will be the last little stint that Neptune will be in Pisces for until January of next year. And then it will never be in Pisces again for the rest of our lives.
Oh my gosh.
Unless we live until over 165 years old.
Okay.
So use this period until January to follow your dreams, to really give one special dream. And this might relate to your Pisces house
Mm.
birth chart. But in general, it's about being your own dream weaver and believing in your dreams and also following your intuition in that area as well, because Neptune is spiritual and it's highly intuitive and it's very happy in Pisces because Neptune rules Pisces, so it's in the sign of its rulership. We might also receive inspiration or angelic messages through our dreams during this period. So it's important to be open to that. And on a more pragmatic level, Neptune also rules our sleep, and so does Pisces, in fact. So it's a good time to work on your sleep hygiene. And when the planet is going retrograde, we can come up with some really deep insights and philosophical ideas, and through deep research. So, if you want to kind of get to the bottom of why maybe you're not sleeping as well as you should be, then this is a good period to do that.
Oh,
See, I'm still going. I told you.
wow.
Long.
I love it. It's just it's so interesting. There's just so much to it.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you can just decipher and peel back the layers when it comes to astrology. I think that's what I love about it so much too. But we do have Scorpio season starting on
Ooh.
October 23rd.
Yeah.
And, Scorpio, this is about getting in touch with our passions. It's also about honoring our sexuality. This is a really beautiful time to work on deepening our emotional intimacy. I think one misconception about Scorpio is that they are these sort of wild sexual beings. And sure, yes, they can be. However, going deeper, it's more about connecting and becoming intimate through that depth of emotional connection. It's
Mm.
not just about physical gratification when it comes to Scorpio. They're such a deep and intense and passionate sign. They just need more than that.
I'm a Scorpio, and
Oh, there
yeah.
you go. Okay. Does that hit home?
Yeah, yeah, I think it does. Like, definitely the emotional connection. A very emotional, sensitive, deep person at times,
Yeah.
but then, like, I have that, like, fiercely loyal side of me. So, yeah, I used to
Yes.
actually be quite I used to be ashamed that I was a Scorpio until
Mm.
I did more research and I realized I like Scorpios. I'm like, I think that they've got a lot of cool traits.
I completely agree with you. I love Scorpios, and Scorpios love astrology because
Yeah.
they need to get down into the depths of what life means, what it all means. They're not content with just living life on a superficial level.
Yeah, that's what I feel. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do, and we all have a bit of Scorpio in our chart somewhere,
Mm.
even if our sun sign is not in Scorpio. So I say embrace that. I love you,
Yeah.
Scorpios. If you're listening out there, you're very
Yeah.
misunderstood.
And I feel like I was gonna bring this up at the end, but I feel like it's a good time to bring it up now.
Yeah.
So, for my community, Tash has actually designed a free personalized birth chart. So, if you're listening to what we're saying, being like, "Oh, well, I don't even know what my," you might not even know what your star, I'm sure you know what your star sign is, but all of your other, what is it, Tash? There's like your
All of your
rising, your
Yes, all of your planetary placements, that is your sun, moon, Venus, Mercury, Mars signs, outer planet signs, plus your houses and your personal points, which include your ascendant or rising sign and your midheaven sign, and also your house cusps. And that's going to be really important if you are listening or following an astrologer and they talk about, for example, a new moon in Scorpio. That is then going to activate the Scorpio house in your birth chart. So that's
yeah.
really important to know. And if you have any planets, obviously, in that house, then that's going to add that extra layer. So that's more of a personal interpretation for you.
And this is what is so exciting. So you can do this. personalized birth chart for free. Any of my community, I'll put the link in the show notes. And like Tash said, it will then help you understand better as to like how you can use your talents or your weaknesses, or like that's what I have found really helpful. And it's in a really kind of digestible way. You see it on the little chart, and Natasha kind of explains what it means for you. And your star sign can make a lot of sense for you, but sometimes it doesn't. And then I feel like when you then look into your rising or your moon or your sun, it all makes so much sense. So, guys, go and do the birth chart. It's going to really help you because my community, they're all growing with me in astrology. Like,
Yeah.
well, I can't speak for everyone, but a lot of them have kind of said to me they're interested, but they don't truly understand. So, this will be great. And now, you were talking about a little bit about the planets and cosmic shifts of October, but what if we kind of go year round? How do these things play into manifestation? Because we in my community, we love manifestation. We want to manifest. Like how can we use the moon or the phases or the stars to our advantage for that?
Yeah, exactly. And, life is so much sweeter when we're working with the cosmic climate and not against it.
Mm,
So that's the gift of astrology, is that it can be a wonderful tool to help us become aware of just what the energetic climate is. Some shifts are going to be more supportive. Others are going to bring lessons, some are going to bring challenges. And so, how do we use this to manifest? Well, it's just about really understanding what type of shifts are supportive and what shifts are going to perhaps, block you moving forward. So, for example, if there is a retrograde happening, let's say it's Mercury retrograde, then you're not going to really manifest that conversation or perhaps that negotiation about your pay rise
mm,
if you're attempting to do that during a Mercury retrograde.
mhm.
But if you're doing it when Mercury is maybe in its sign of its rulership, like either in Virgo or in Gemini, and Mercury is providing that supportive, energetic climate for those conditions, then you're going to have more chance of getting the outcome that you want. The same thing
Wow.
with a Venus retrograde. Venus represents love in astrology. So, this then, you don't necessarily want to start a new relationship on a Venus retrograde. And if you're looking to manifest love in your life, you want to do that when Venus is potentially moving forward in full force in the sign of its rulership. And these are all just very basic examples. We can use a positive full moon or a lunation. Also, the lunar cycles can help us to manifest. I think that's probably one of my favorite ways of manifesting and setting new intentions, because really those lunar phases are occurring constantly throughout the month. We
Yeah.
get one full lunar phase each month. I believe that on the new moon, that is the time when we are setting new intentions and we are really supported by, in doing that. And then we can do whatever rituals or practices that are our favorite for setting new intentions with that new moon, with the idea that we're going to aim to manifest these new intentions by the time the full moon occurs. So it might help people to visualize what the lunar cycle looks like.
Mm,
In a new moon, we have the sun and the moon exactly together in the same spot in the zodiac. And then as the lunar phase enters its waxing period
mhm.
and the moon and the sun get to be at the full moon period, that is when the sun and the moon are exactly opposite each other in the sky. This is the peak point. So it's about bringing something into fruition to that peak point. And from that full moon phase, then it begins into the waning phase. And this is where we start to let go of things and we start to eliminate what no longer serves us until we get right up until the dark phase of the moon, just prior to another beautiful new moon blossoming. And we can think about what we really need to let go of and what we want to change in that next new moon phase.
Wow, it's so interesting. And especially like for us women, we obviously have our own phases that we go through each month. So I'm like, there was a
Yeah.
time where I was synced up to the full moon, but now I'm not. And it's like, we want to think about what the moon is doing, but then we want to think about where we're at. How do you, as you're an astrologer, you have so much knowledge around all of this, the planetary shifts and everything. How strict are you in like, only manifesting on certain moons or letting go when the moon is in a certain phase? Like, how do you kind of integrate it into your life in a realistic way, just so we can get some inspiration on how like easy or hard it can be?
Well, I've been launching a lot of new things lately, and I will definitely aim to launch on a new moon.
Okay.
There might be one caveat to that, one exception,
Mm.
and that is we do need to be very careful if that new moon also happens to be a solar eclipse. So solar eclipses only occur on new moons and lunar eclipses only occur on full moons. Now, this isn't necessarily something that's bad. I actually did launch my book on a solar eclipse.
Okay.
What it does mean, though, is that we might end up, and we do need to surrender to our destiny. It is linked to fate. Eclipses are linked to our destiny. And that can mean that how we visualize and how we want something to go doesn't necessarily happen. And this can throw us into a bit of chaos and make us panic. But the important thing to remember is that this is exactly how it's meant to be. And by surrendering to that, the universe then takes us where we truly are meant to go.
Mm.
So, launching on the eclipse is fine if you're prepared to surrender a little bit and expect the unexpected in a way.
Okay.
And that
Yeah.
might be chaotic. So, that might not be good for certain things, but for other things, that can actually work quite well.
Wow. And what would your advice be, like going back to the examples you had around going for a promotion or a pay rise, and then the kind of you're falling in love, like, there's a new relationship, and there were those certain, astrological events going on where you would say, maybe wait. What would your advice be if, let's say, the boss was like, I need an answer now, or like this
Yeah.
person is like, I want to know if you like me. Like, I'm just trying to come from a more like a, you know, we're in it. What do we do?
Yes, and that's the thing that can be very difficult because sometimes we don't have the luxury of holding back until there's a new moon,
Mm,
or we can't wait to leave our job because we need to move on and we've been offered another better job, or we're in an abusive relationship, for example,
mm,
and or a relationship that's draining us so much that it's unhealthy for us to stay in
yeah,
that. So in that case, obviously we have to be practical. I think
yeah.
that astrology works best with common sense. Astrology is not it's not like having a psychic reading. It's not black and white. We do work with it as a tool. And I'm always a big believer that free will comes into play. So, again, we are working with the cosmic climate. We are not allowing it to dictate to us.
Mm.
So, if you find that you do have to make a move and the astrology is not necessarily supportive of that, it may mean that the universe has a bigger plan for you. For
Yeah, that's what I was
example,
just thinking, which is nice. Yeah, please go on.
yeah.
Like, yeah.
So, for example, just to put it in, realistic, real life terms, if you need to start a new job and it's Mercury retrograde or it's the balsamic phase of the moon, Then Mercury retrograde can often mean that we have to go back over old ground, and it can create some missed details. If we're signing contracts, we might miss some of the fine print because Mercury rules communication, writing, negotiations,
Mm.
and when it's in retrograde, those little things can go awry. But if Mercury is retrograde, you do need to move forward. You do need to sign that contract, which is, generally speaking, a Mercury retrograde no no. Then the way I like to look at it is the universe intends for you to, maybe you do have to go back over old ground. Maybe you do have to renegotiate your pay, possibly on the next Mercury retrograde. Maybe there is just something, maybe you're not meant to stay at that job forever and a day,
Yeah.
and there is something else better for you, but you need to be here now. So just trusting that it may not be perfect from A to B. There may be a few hiccups, but those hiccups are things that you absolutely have to experience because that's part of your growth and that's part of your experience in that circumstance.
I love that, and it makes so much sense. Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you.
That's all
It's
really, yeah, exciting and yeah.
I'm really glad you asked that too, because, I think astrology is not meant to stir up fear,
Mm,
and it's not a rigid belief system. It
mhm.
really is something that we can work with to our advantage to help support us, help support our growth, and help support our life path.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And speaking of, astrology helping, like, supporting us, what about supporting us in releasing things? Like, if we're holding on to a lot of fear or jealousy or old wounds, what would you do if we had something we really wanted to release? Where would you, like, go with that, and when would you do it?
I think that starts with self awareness always. And this is where the birth chart can really help light up our self awareness through
Mm,
our astrological layers, our astrological DNA, if you like. So it's about really understanding your placements first and where that jealousy or that fear or those wounds are coming from. And this is where the birth chart can really reveal these things. So, for example, if you have Mars in Cancer, and this is something that I have.
okay.
So, Mars in Cancer, Mars is how we assert ourselves. And in Cancer, it's not well placed. Mars doesn't like being in Cancer. Cancer is the sign of the zodiac crab. This is not an assertive, aggressive sign. This is a very sensitive, emotional sign. So, it means that Mars's qualities don't necessarily express themselves in a dominant or a strong way.
Mhm.
So, people with Mars in Cancer know that they need to work on being more assertive. And that's really all it is. It doesn't mean that you're going to be shy for your entire life, that people are going to walk all over you. It just means that that is an area that needs a little bit of extra work for you. And this can then help us to understand how we go about doing that, depending on how Mars is placed in our birth chart. And the same with the Sun in Scorpio. So this can lend itself to being jealous. Yes, it's one of the shadow traits of Scorpio. They can tip towards being intense and quite jealous in their relationships if things are not expressed in a healthy way, or
Mhm.
that those shadow qualities kind of come out. And for these people, then they need to understand how to work on loving fully but not obsessively. So it's about just sort of balancing the light with the shadow of each planetary placement in your birth chart.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, I'm so excited to go back and have a good look at my birth chart because I did it a couple of weeks ago when you sent it through. And when
Yeah.
I was reading it, I was just like, yep, yep, this makes so much sense. And in that example that you just took us through, I like how you say we can use it to help us almost like go easier on ourselves to be like, oh, I do this or I am this way because this is in my sun or my moon or whatever in this house. And it's just nice kind of validation. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely, and that's what I mean. It starts with that level of self-awareness, like,
Mm,
"Oh, this is I feel so seen and validated, and I can see it here in black and white. I
mm,
understand now where this is coming from. So now let's look at how we can work with that." And
yeah.
also, just understanding what's happening in the sky in current time. So, if we have Jupiter coming up to your sun in Scorpio, and this is going to happen once every 12 years, then you understand that this is a beautiful time for growth in all those Scorpio qualities that you have. And
Right.
different planets will allow us and facilitate certain healing and growth and understanding.
Oh, lovely. And so when we are talking about like let's say like I know we're kind of still on the same topic, but let's say we do have some fear or some jealousy, some anger that we want to release through a meditation. Obviously, we can do that meditation whenever we like, and it's going to be helpful. When regarding the moon phase, would it be the most powerful to do something like that and to really like almost like a letting go ceremony? I just have a lot of my community that come to me that say, like, I just can't get rid of this like anger or like blame or resentment. Is there a powerful time within the moon phase?
I'd say I like to think of the full moon as a culmination point, as bringing something into being. So it seems like it would be contradictory to say it's also a good time to let go. But I think that the idea of endings and new beginnings or creating or manifesting or bringing something to full fruition is one in the same,
Mm,
because more often than not, in order to step into a new phase, and that new phase might be a new empowered you, or a you that is freed from your anger or resentment. So, in stepping into or manifesting anything new, um, we often have to let something go first, because everything is a cycle, everything is
mm,
connected. So I'd say probably it would be the full moon phase for
mm.
letting go of those types of
Okay.
emotions, yes, or relationships or anything like that in life.
Yeah, cool. Exciting. And how can astrology kind of show us patterns that we maybe keep repeating? And like, how can we use it, I guess, to show, to kind of as a mirror?
Yeah.
Am I making any sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it absolutely does that. And this is going back to understanding our planetary placements
Yeah,
and
okay.
understanding where our strengths lie, where our weaknesses are, where our challenging patterns lie.
Mm,
And to break free of that, I really feel like this is a conscious choice as well. And this goes back to that self awareness and just making that conscious choice and, breaking free using our free will. That is so powerful.
mm.
And we are not bound by what is in our charts. We are not bound by the astrology, but in understanding it, we can work with it better.
Yeah, I like that. And that's kind of what I say about, the law of attraction. It's like it's always there, it's always working. And if we understand it, we can use it to our advantage.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's about using it as a tool to make life work for you. That's why we're here, after
Yeah.
all.
And what would be your like some examples or some throwbacks even from when you have used astrology to your advantage and there's an example where you just felt either so supported or so renewed where you were like, oh wow, this actually really works, like I am so connected to the astrological events. Do you have any fun examples you could tell us?
Oh gosh, that's getting personal, isn't it? My mind just reverts straight back to my very first astrology lesson, where we sat there with our birth charts in front of us and I looked at all of the Leo in my chart. And I had been a performer, I'd been a ballet dancer.
Mm.
in the past. But there was a bit of, I've also got some placements in my chart that are challenging in terms of confidence. And I always felt ashamed of putting myself out there and wanting to perform. But I think seeing all of that Leo and understanding that, for those people that don't know, Leo is the sign of the performer, of the artist. It's a very creative sign. But Leos do like to be out there, and they like a bit of attention. Mostly shy Leos, you exist as well. And if you don't feel like a typical Leo, it's because your role in this life, or your destiny in this life, is actually to develop that confidence. That
Interesting. Yeah,
that
yeah.
is your birthright. Yeah. So for me, I don't know, how did I use it? It gave me the confidence to embrace my authentic self and think, oh my gosh, this is me. I see me. I accept me. With all that Leo stuff, I understand my driving force for wanting to be on the stage and be out there. And in doing that, kind of in naming it in a way, it just allowed me to release any of the shame around it,
Wow.
because I could see it there in front of me.
Yeah, you could
Yeah.
see why, and it's like it really helped you make sense of so many things by the sounds of it.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that's what astrology can do. It can help you validate and make sense of things, particularly when you're going through a challenging time as well. And I definitely used astrology myself when I was going through my divorce.
Mm,
And just in practical terms, it just helped me know when it was all going to start wrapping up and coming to an end,
yeah.
and the light at the end of the tunnel was going to appear, just simply by following the transits, meaning the planetary movements in the sky, and just knowing when certain challenging cycles were going to end. So I was just able to buckle down and get through.
This is so interesting. Thank you so much for sharing both of those stories because I learn from examples and I'm just like, my mouth is wide open. I'm like, that is just so interesting and intriguing. And you've got me so excited to dive into astrology a little more when I'm going through something to try and not only guide me, but also like just understand and bring that clarity. And also, like you said, you were kind of then aware of when things were going to wrap up or when they were going to like intensify or when you were going to have to let it go. And to have that support of the planets and of the moon, of the energy that's surrounding us every single day can just be so helpful.
Absolutely. And what a gift it is,
Yeah.
really. What a gift, just to understand the planets, to allow them to guide us.
Yeah.
And this also then empowers us to make the best decisions in those types of circumstances, just understanding that maybe it's not a good time to push and move forward with something, or to seek closure on anything,
Mm.
when the astrological climate isn't necessarily done with that situation just yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. Oh my gosh, it's so interesting. And guys, if you're listening to and you're feeling a little bit, this is all too over your head, it's a lot of information, follow Tash on Instagram because she has so many different like little videos and resources along with the birth chart obviously that can kind of like help you. They're easy to digest. So we're not just going to like leave you high and dry with all this information. You can take what we're saying and you can bring it to life yourself in whatever way is right for you. But I did
Yeah.
just want to share this example that I know my friend won't mind me sharing this, and I've just remembered it. So this is back years and years and years ago. Her
Yeah.
husband, and I'd love to get your take. Uh, Her husband and her were trying to have a baby for so long, and it wasn't working no matter what they were doing. And one night she went up to her balcony, and there was a full moon and she lifted up her shirt and she was rubbing her belly under the full moon and she was staring at the full moon and she was like, I can't explain to you what came over me, but like I felt this connection. I felt the support of the full moon. I felt this like feminine energy of like
Right.
phases and like how well, women, we're very similar to the moon because we
Mm.
have phases. And she, on that cycle, she got pregnant, and it was just like a miracle. And had a
Oh.
healthy baby boy. And I just always remember that story of how magical that was. What do you think from your point of view? Like, what was going on there?
Oh, I've got chills. That is such a powerful and beautiful story. Astrologically speaking, I can say that the moon represents the divine feminine in astrology. It also represents the mother and mothering. In a birth chart, it shows how we might experience our motherhood journey if that is written in our stars, if we choose that. It can show the relationship that we have with our own mother. And so I think your story of this amazing woman who had the intuitive inclination to get out there and talk to the moon and make her intention or manifest her intention right on the full moon,
Mm,
I think that is just, it's symbolic of how astrology can really work well with manifestation, because she was really doing a little bit, she was using the astrology to help her manifest her desires.
mm,
And astrology is not absolutely everything and all there is. There are other practices that we can use and incorporate, with our astrological knowledge, whether that's manifesting or magic or prayer.
mm.
And I love that she's combined that and
Yeah.
she's received such an incredible result. And congrats to her.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so last question for our little podcast interview today. I would love to get your take on signs and coincidences and synchronicities. I talk about these a lot on the Pass Around the Smile podcast. And I guess I kind of say, well, I believe I'm like, oh, yeah, for me, they come from the universe. They come from an energy that I believe protects me or has my back, or maybe they come from, my nan, or, you know, uh,
Yeah.
do you think the astrological world has something to play in signs and synchronicities that we get sent, or do you think that's separate?
I think it is entwined. I think
Mm,
absolutely you can see when you would be more likely to receive an angelic sign or a symbol in your chart. And that would be the 12th house, which represents angel messages. It represents our subconscious and it represents our dream state. So we are more receptive. When that is triggered, we're going to be more receptive to receiving these signs and symbols, which I think are around us constantly.
cool.
Just certain people and during certain moments, we're more attuned to them. And the 12th house also represents the spirit world. I mean, the spirit world exists, and in times, certain times in our lives, I do believe that our ancestors or our guardian angels do give us signs and symbols. It's their way of communicating, and that will be facilitated from an astrological perspective when our 12th house is being activated, maybe by the moon. And
Right.
that's going to happen every month. So that can be
Okay.
quite regular. Yes.
Okay. Wow. Oh my gosh. And just with the 12th house, is that different for everyone depending on like who you are and where you are at in your
Yes.
birth chart? Okay. Does the birth
Yes.
chart help with that as well?
Yes, exactly. So,
Okay.
with my birth chart, and I've just done it, like you get the beautiful birth chart, the illustration, which is gorgeous, and you can print it out and hang it on your wall, and it looks stunning. But underneath that, you will have a list of all of your planetary placements, and also a list of your houses and what sign your house is in.
Yeah.
So it's
Wow.
just really easy to read. So you'll see like 12th house, and then you'll see it's ruled by whatever zodiac sign your 12th house is ruled by. And just a little tip, if you know your ascendant or rising sign, your 12th house is most likely to be the sign prior to that.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yes. So if your rising is in Aries, then it's most likely that your rising sign will be, sorry, your 12th house will be in Pisces.
Pisces. Yeah. Okay. Wow. Well, Tash, honestly, thank you so much for coming on the Pass Around the Smile podcast again. I know my community love you. I know they're all going to be doing the personalized birth chart, which I can't believe is free, by the way. I'll put the link in the show notes, and I'm just so grateful for all of your energy and your time and your wisdom. And make sure you follow Tash on Instagram as well, because getting those little reminders when you're scrolling is everything, I feel, because we can get like lost in, just we're busy and we forget about what the planets are doing. But if Astrotash comes up and she's like, hey, this is what's happening today, you should do this, it's a good way to keep on track.
Exactly. And I do try and keep it real and helpful in terms of the info. And then you can follow along according to what's happening and how it's triggering your chart, most importantly.
Thank you, Tash. Thank you so much
Thank
once
you,
again.
darling. Thank you. And lots of love to everyone out there.
I'm sure they're feeling all the love from you. Thanks, Tash.
Thank you.